everybody, Questwise here with another video for you. I want to share something with you, something cool that I came across the other day. My wife and I were watching a movie by M. Night Shyamalan, the newest movie by him, which is called Split. If you haven't seen the movie Split, I don't want to give too much away, but it is about a guy with multiple personalities. And as I'm watching this movie, it begins to remind me of a part of Heroes Unlimited by Palladium Games. It reminds me of a part of this that often gets overlooked, and that part is the insanity rules. They're completely optional when you play Heroes Unlimited, but it's something that's often overlooked. And in fact, I think over my entire career of playing Palladium games, maybe I only have used the insanity rules once or twice, and only because of certain things like horror factors and stumbling upon something that sort of knocked a character off, mental stability. But watching this movie Split got me to thinking about the insanity rules again, and about how really, really cool that they really are, and what sort of thought and research went into placing them in this game. Now, if you haven't played Heroes Unlimited, I highly recommend you going out and get a copy of this game. If you love superhero games, this is the game, really. To be honest with you, I've tried a lot of other games. I've tried Mutants and Masterminds, I've tried Silver Age Sentinels, I've tried them all. And even Marvel, what's it called? The Marvel Heroic Superhero, whatever it was called, which I love Marvel to death, and I think that Marvel is probably one of my favorite comic book producers, but the game was okay. Whenever I think of superheroes, whenever I think of playing a superhero and doing a game based in a superheroic world, Heroes Unlimited is the game I always turn to. This is the newest edition of Heroes Unlimited by Palladium Books, which I believe this is the second edition. Yes, revised second edition as well, right there on the back. But this is a game I always turn to. Basically, any kind of hero I've ever wanted to create, and something I've never even dreamed of creating, are possible right in here. The great thing about Heroes Unlimited is that it's a guided set of rules that helps you build amazing heroes, any hero that you can dream of. And by guided, what I mean is some games, Mutants and Masterminds in particular, are open toolbox of abilities and rules for you to create your own heroes. I found that those rules became very clunky, time-consuming. I felt like, why do I have to do all this work to create a power that I know already exists in Heroes Unlimited? Why do I have to create a character? And I want to say I want to do a magical type character, a wizard type character who uses magic. Why do I have to take all these different tools and charts and everything and try to create my magical abilities out of these super powered kind of things? Whatever. It was a pain in the neck. Boom. I opened my Heroes Unlimited book. Everything's right there. There's already a section in here on magic and the varieties of different types of magic, whether you want to be a wizard type hero, whether you want to be a stage magician, whether you want to have a magical weapon. It's all in here, and it's kind of a guided tour through creating those heroes without all the extra toolboxy crap that you have to go through with some of these other games. Not the reason we're here. A full review of Heroes Unlimited. What I wanted to talk about was the insanity rules that come in these games. Now, the insanity rules can be found in just about every Palladium product, any Palladium game, whether it be Rifts, whether it be Splicers, whether it be Heroes Unlimited, whether it be whatever, any other products, Ninjas and Super Spies, they all have the insanity rules in them. When I was watching the movie Split with my wife, it got me to thinking about what a cool way to use insanity rules to either enhance playing a character. There are rules in here for playing a crazy hero. There's actually a section that talks specifically about it. If I can find that for you real quick. So right here on page 33, the optional Crazy Hero, which I think could be, I wouldn't recommend playing a Crazy Hero for a first-time player, first-time role player, especially new to the system. But it could be a very interesting challenge for somebody who's very well versed in role playing or very well versed in Heroes Unlimited or any of the Palladium products. What I think that the Insanity rules are really great for, and where they were really shine, is using them for villains, for creating villains for your characters to fight. In fact, one of my favorite villains to have ever used was from an ancient old Rifter magazine called, it was on, and it was an article on Gestalt heroes, and heroes that were created from other pieces and parts. So it'd be rather like creating Voltron with robotic characters coming together to make one massive robot, or even other characters coming together to make one person, one superhero, one super being. But the one that was always my favorite was Bubonic. He was one of the villains in there, and he was a mass of different rats, a swarm of rats that formed into one entity. And I've used Bubonic for several different campaigns against several different types of games. I've used him in Rifts. I've used him in Heroes Unlimited. I don't know if I've used him in anything else. I don't think he's ever shown up in any Ninjas and Super Spice games I've run, but I love Bubonic. He's always a reoccurring villain. And as I began to watch Split, and I started to think about the Insanity rules, I thought, man, what a cool idea to add to him a multiple personality syndrome to Bubonic. Thinking of all these different rats coming together to form one entity, why would it every time they came sort of massed together, would he have the same personality? And so I began to tinker with Bubonic's stat lines and stuff. And by using the rules set forth in here, I was able to sort of create a new supervillain, or a new facet of the supervillain that I use on several occasions. So as a player, as a new player, I wouldn't really recommend it as a first-time sort of creation to create a crazy hero, or to use Insanity in any sort of major type of a way. But I think for a more seasoned player, it would be a very good test of role-playing, of the role-playing sort of muscle to try to play out a hero. And it doesn't have to be multiple personalities. It could be an obsession. It could be powers that are only triggered through, like, the Popeye syndrome. They have to eat or drink a certain thing that allows them to activate their powers. And it's all stuff that's in their mind. There's things like, and let me preface this by saying, the Insanity rules and some of the other rules in here can be sort of an adult themed sort of situations. So you might want to be careful on the kind of group that you're playing with. If they're sort of immature players, or if they're rather young players, you might want to, steer these a little bit thin, because they deal with drug addiction, they deal with alcoholism and other addictions and stuff in there as well too. If you have a very mature group, a very mature audience that you're working with, then those are not a problem. Those actually introduce a whole nother level of depth to the role-playing aspect of this game, as it were. But you might want to be a little careful, with younger players dealing with things like alcoholism or addiction, or even if one of your players may be a recovering addict, you might want to talk with them first and see what their level of comfort is for that kind of thing. But I think that those rules, like I said, very well thought out, very extremely well detailed, and gamified, and the rule, giving a sort of structure to be able to use in the game that works well with no matter what kind of hero you're trying to create or villain you're trying to create, works seamlessly with all those things as well too. These guys over at Palladium did a very good job of making sure that those things incorporate very well into the game system and don't feel like just kind of a clunky add-on that was thought of later. Now back to villains again. I did a little experiment just before I started this video, recording this video. I wanted to do a little experiment on. I just wanted to randomly roll up a character and see what happened. I wanted to create a new sort of maybe villain slash NPC. It doesn't necessarily have to be a villain, but maybe an NPC that can work with the characters. And I just wanted to try a little bit of a twist from the Split movie and just kind of randomly roll up a character and see what happens. Because sometimes when you have a game and you're creating a character, like Heroes Unlimited, when you're creating a character and you're sitting down with a book and you're choosing the options for yourself, you can make some incredible characters. Sometimes, though, and the great thing about Palladium Books is that a lot of the stuff in character creation can be randomly just generated, which I love. Because sometimes when you're having a hard time with an idea, you break out some dice, you roll some percentiles, and boom, you've got some instant story ideas or character ideas. And that's what I did with this. Completely just randomly generated this entire character, and then wanted to add the multiple personality insanity after the fact of creating this. What I came up with was, in my opinion, pretty damn cool. I came up with a character who average stats, straight across the board, very, very average. Nothing to write home about. We're talking like 12s and 13s across the whole spectrum of attributes. I rolled for his education level, which came up pretty well. I rolled pretty well on most of these, except for the average stats. And he had a bachelor's degree, which gave me a nice variety of different skills to choose from and to pick for. And again, I did these all randomly again as well too. So I through randomly generating some of the skill programs, I found out that he has an expertise in computer programming, communications, business skills, and the science program, which fit in perfect for the next part I rolled. And rolled then randomly to find out what sort of superhero, what sort of super person we were going to create. And it ended up being an experiment, a military experiment that was done through deliberate chemical infusions into the character. I thought, this is perfect. This is already telling me a great story. It's giving me a great background on this character. He's a scientist. He has a bachelor's degree in science and computers, and what better way than to do a deliberate chemical infusion into his body with the idea that we're trying to create an augmented human. The side effect to his experiment was that he requires energy of some sort to refuel himself. And I kind of left it intentionally kind of blank because there wasn't anything to roll for that. I just said that he needs requires some energy for nourishment. He doesn't eat food. He requires some sort of, whether it be electrical energy or light energy or heat energy in order to refuel himself. Later I picked light, only because it fit kind of with his thing. When I rolled for his powers, on what kind of powers he's going to, I rolled really well. So he ended up with 3 major superpowers and 6 minor ones. I won't go through all the boring details of all the minor abilities, but here's what happened. For powers, the first one I rolled was bio armor. Okay, so he can now exude a sheet of thin skin, like skin tight, second skin, silver reflective armor over his entire body. It becomes almost like Silver Surfer, kind of an idea, where he just, instantly he can there's just bio armor that kind of exudes from his skin. The second power I rolled for him was divine aura. So now he has this aura about him of divinity, of like a godlike status. He has followers now. Because of that, he has the ability to command his followers and do some other things. And then the third one I rolled, absolutely fantastic, fits perfectly into this thing, invulnerability. I just now created basically sort of a godlike character. But let me stop right there as well too. If you've never played Heroes Unlimited, and I just told you I created a godlike character, and you're like, forget this game. I just created a godlike character, and nobody can win. You're never going to die. Nothing's ever bad's going to happen to you. Wrong. The guys over at Palladium taken this game very, very seriously. They take every game that they create very seriously. And within that, yes, I created a character that's invulnerable. Basically, physical damage does no damage to him whatsoever. I could drop a building on him and he would survive. But he's not unkillable. He can be slowed down. Magic attacks, psionic attacks, these types of things have full effect on him. And because the rest of the world is full of magic creatures and psionic heroes and super, villains, he does have the ability to survive a little longer, maybe, but he's not completely invulnerable. So, but anyhow, what I'm getting to preface that, to kind of go back to the character, everything I rolled randomly fit this theme very, very well. So now I have a god character, with the idea that I was also going to add split personalities onto him. I named him Pantheon. He's now a series of different personalities that can, and it tells you in the book, there's different ways that these different personalities can trigger. There's a main personality that you're going to be using most of the time. Anytime one of the other effects get triggered, there's a random chance that one of the other personalities will step forward and take over for a time. I rolled up to see how many personalities he had. Total of 5. 3 of them are decent. They're decent folk. They're good in as far as alignment goes. They're good in that respect. 2 of them, not so good. Here's the other thing that kind of came up awesome and very, very interesting. Again, through the complete randomness of the system, and the ability and the fact that they've done their research and they've done a fantastic job at sort of giving game rules or gamifying some of these insanity abilities to make them work seamlessly in the game. The first character I rolled up for him, the first personality I rolled, was a pacifist. So now we have a sort of divine-like character who has followers, who's a pacifist. So think Silver Surfer Gandhi. Okay? We have a guy who's completely pacifist. He will not fight. His complete opposite, the 5th personality I rolled for him, was bloodthirsty. He's an evil character, an evil personality who wants nothing more than to shed blood. This is the great thing about the Palladium system, about the Heroes Unlimited system. I randomly rolled this character up in about a half an hour, and I got a very, very great, in-depth, and I just did this on one sheet of paper. Again, it's just my notes. I didn't fill out an actual character sheet or anything. But now I have a character that I can use as an NPC. I can turn him into a strange, different type of a villain if I want to for a campaign. But the Palladium system, the Megaverse system, the Heroes Unlimited system, worked out so well. And because they've done so much playtesting and researching and making sure that these games are right, I now have a great character, a great NPC with some great in-depth background that I can plug into any kind of game I want. I could throw him into Rifts. I could throw him into a Ninjas and Super Spies game of crazy, James Bond type things. I can make him a reoccurring character in Heroes Unlimited. I could put them into any of the Rift system or any of the Palladium systems, and he'll work really, really well. And so, I think it's really interesting. If you haven't had a chance, if first of all, if you don't have this book, go get it. This book is amazing. The artwork is phenomenal. Everything in this book is just blows me away. I love this game. And I'm in fantasy. If you've seen my other videos, fantasy is really my go-to kind of game, my genre. But if I'm going to do superheroes, this is the one I go for. So if you haven't picked up Heroes Unlimited, please do so. It's we're talking $27, $26.95 is the retail price on the back of the book. You're never going to find another superhero game this in depth, this awesome, and this playable for $27. So go pick that up, and then once you do, or if you already have, take a look at some of the optional rules that are available in these books. A lot of times they get overlooked. Like I said, I hadn't looked at insanity rules in a long, long time, and I'd never used them to an actual optional ability to use in the game itself to sort of enhance the game. And now I have, and now I think I will definitely reincorporate a lot of those optional rules into what I'm playing and into what I'm running and the worlds that I'm creating as well too. So again, just a blurb, a plug for Heroes Unlimited. Please check them out, palladiumbooks.com. I believe I'll put a link in the thing down below. I always forget if it's Palladium Books or Palladium Games. I'm pretty sure it's palladiumbooks.com. Go and check them out. I'll put a link down below. Fantastic company. Definitely worth checking out. Again, like I said, this is my go-to superhero system. And if you already have this, take another look at the Insanity rules. I think they can add a whole nother level of interesting gameplay to your game. A lot of depth. But again, a little bit of caution in that some of them are a little bit more adult-themed. And just, be kind to the people you're playing with, and be considerate of their needs and their wants in the game. So okay, till next time, I'm Questwise, and we're out.